Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look, and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What we'll see will defy explanation.
A brother, an icon to those that know him. He is Endeavor Empire.
Well. How's everybody doing today? Just letting that groove a little bit, you know. Gotta love it. Want to welcome y'all to the show. Hopefully everybody's doing good out there. I know I am. Beautiful day, beautiful weather. Hopefully spring is on the horizon, but we shall see. My name is Derek. I am Endeavor Empire. Want to welcome you out to the show. Hope everybody had a fantastic day, fantastic week, or just had a fantastic everything. I know I did. A little bit of a rough week for me. Still going through the motions with these schools, these administrators. Well, I shouldn't say these administrators, maybe just one in particular. But that brings me into what we're going to talk about today. Today is sort of like a grievance I have with my kids' school. They're in high school now, but I know schools have changed, which is the title of this show today. Schools have changed. But for me, I don't know if it's for the better or for the worst. You know, we see a lot of changes, a lot of shit that we grew up with, that what we were used to is just not being exhibited in some of the schools. I can't really say all of them because not every school is the same. But you would think if you're part of a school district, everybody kind of has that same dynamic, that same structure built. You know, if it's for the district, then it goes for all schools in general. Well, kind of doesn't. So today I will talk about my experiences with maybe some challenges that I'm facing with my kids' school. I won't name the district for fear of, not really cancel culture, but, I'm not trying to have my kids be smeared through paint and dirt and saying, oh, your daddy's this, your daddy's that. So we'll just keep it to, if some of you guys know, you know what schools my kids attend. But for most of us, I think some of the parents that what I'm going to speak on today, maybe some of you can relate and maybe you can understand. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I got to tell you, it feels like I'm not alone in this because I see a lot of posts online on social media that parents are going through the same similar situation that I'm going through. And then we're trying to figure out how the situation can be improved instead of keep being flawed. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? For me, I think that school has changed from what I was used to. And I understand as time changes, every school is different. But I want to talk to you today. I want to talk to you about, I think that in high school, does the school often go too far at times with unnecessary punishment? Excuse me. So on this show today, we'll talk about my experience as a parent as well as my children involved. I must admit, in the years I've lived in this district, I've never experienced such abuse of power. I don't want to acknowledge that race plays a part in this, but I would be lying if I said it didn't, if it didn't. And it doesn't play all the way in it, but from what I've seen, it to me, it kind of, maybe it's 50-50. In any event, so I will discuss the issues that's been faced with my kids at high school as I often not faced before in this district. And we've been in this district since elementary. So what I first want to start with is that, I don't know, maybe it's just me or maybe it's other parents that maybe feel this way, but I feel that there is an alliance that goes on in these schools. And what I mean by alliance, I mean by orchestrated by the administration as well as some teachers. Because let's be honest, during passing periods or planning periods, as they call it, teachers will go and, they'll go to their lounge, and some vent and some go just to compare notes, or some just to say, hey, maybe they like to be the solution to the problem instead of creating the problem. And I give my hats off to those teachers. I do. But for me, I think that there's an ultimate alliance that we can't see that I informed this principal that I knew about and that he declined to share with me because he said, oh, no, we don't do that here. Yeah, okay. Well, you're going to tell me anything because you don't want to be caught in that lie, even though I know what's fact and what's true. And then you guys probably ask me, well, Derek, how do you know that? Well, let's just say when you're a teacher and, you go online and you kind of talk about things, and some of these things may be in private groups, and I don't even have to belong to your group, or I am in a group that you're in that you don't know that I'm in. And that has nothing pertaining to school. Like, there's a post online on social media that these groups, they say one thing, but behind closed doors is totally different. So I had it on good authority that was shared with me by by students as well as teachers. But it's much more part of the students than it is teachers. Because why? Because some of the students, their parents are teachers. So of course they're going to come home and talk about it. And, and the kid, depending on the type of way they're feeling, if they're angry with their parent, they love their parent, or they just want to hear the latest gossip, then of course, you're going to tell your friend or your best friend or whoever the hell else. Now, hang on for me. I know I got to drink my red tea and hit this vape. Hold on. But it's not throwing intentionally shade at the teachers, because my issue is with an administrator, a certain assistant principal. So when I say the ridiculousness of a punishment that doesn't fit the crime, let's go with this. So my daughter, at the start of the school year, this daughter is my oldest daughter. She does not get into trouble. Well, actually, none of my kids get into trouble, but they felt the need to bring this to my attention. So my daughter has a best friend. Her and her best friend weren't really horse playing, but my daughter like barely tapped her on the foot, like a feather tap. She was warranted a detention for that. And what I thought was ludicrous is when I first met this principal, and I won't say his name, because again, I'm not trying to put anybody on blast or anything like that, but he didn't know that the student and my child were best friends. And it wasn't until later when I had the meeting that it was brought to their attention, which the teacher sat in on the meeting and thought that it was just okay. She's white, my daughter's black. So they thought that it was just a black kid picking on a white kid, but it wasn't the case. As I explained this to them, and they were in kind of an awe moment. First off, this principal is his first year here at this high school. He came from another district, so he doesn't really know the students as well as some administrators does. Because I got to say, back in my day, when I went to high school, we had administrators that were kind of there throughout the start and the ending of our year. And I know that's not the case with everybody, and I get that. But I think if you come into a new school blindly and you come from another district and you think that you're going to implement some things that you brought from another district. Now, granted, both districts are good districts, but I'm not sure why he was either hired at this district or maybe let go of the other. I don't know that. I don't know. But my thing is with this principal is that he has no kind of compassion. He has no understanding. Once he says something, it's pretty much it. Now, what he may have thought was horseplaying, I don't. A small tap that didn't injure a student, that they were best friends, and even the student came to my daughter, her best friend's aid, and said no, she didn't do anything like that, because the teacher was trying to get her to turn on my daughter by saying something wrong. Yeah, black, white kids. I mean, I guess some people still ain't over it, which is fine, but I don't understand why we have to make a black and white issue out of everything. I'm clearly not, but they clearly did not know that. But when they found out, they were kind of like, oh my God, and didn't say anything. He didn't try to say anything that would kind of make the situation better. He just made it worse. well, we don't tolerate horse playing at school. That's not horse playing. Tapping a student on her foot that didn't cause any injury. It was more like a feather tap. And she got a detention for that. Got a 1-hour detention for that. So, of course, I wasn't happy because I think, this is just my opinion, that you're in high school. This is the last final step until you're about to achieve adulthood and enter the real world. So I'm not saying she's letting off steam or nothing like that. I'm saying you're having a good time with your fellow peers because, let's face it, this may or may not be the last time we see them. So I'm not excusing the fact that my daughter did anything wrong, because in my mind, I felt she didn't do anything wrong, especially since her best friend told me that she didn't do anything wrong. So that's just one issue. After I left that meeting was less than far more what I had wanted it to be. It was not even achievable. I think at this point, the bridge has been burnt and there was no point of return. So I decided to break bread, turn the other cheek, so to speak, and decide to give another chance. Well, this principal writes my kids up for the most dumbest reasons. Now, let me ask you guys something. Back in my day, if a student wasn't in your class and a student is roaming the halls, wasn't there such thing as either hall monitors or administrators that walked the hall to make sure kids were in their classroom? Because back in my day, that was a thing that was done. If you seen a child outside the classroom, you'd go find out why. And granted, it only take about depending on the high school, because mostly all the administrators are out in the hallway during passing periods anytime, and teachers or teachers that are going on their planning period, they're in the hallways as well. This assistant principal, and remind you, a school that is high-tech outfitted with every single freaking camera, like the best in the game, I guess, or whatever, decided to give my child a detention for skipping class, which the child was outside the classroom, getting ready to enter the classroom. So he felt that my child was skipping, even though they were 1 or 2 minutes late to class. So again, me and this principal, we had words. Assistant principal, we had words. Because I think what he's doing, his abuse of power, and he knows when he calls me, it's never going to be a good conversation. I don't want it to go that way. I want to try to be an understanding parent. I have worked with every single administrator in this district since we've been here. We've all had a good rapport. This is the only assistant principal that I can't seem to break bread with. I don't know if he feels some type of way about black students or white students, because he came from a district that was very diverse. So I don't know if he feels he needs to come over here and try to change things and try to get everybody acclimated to his demeanor, which again, doesn't play well in my book. But I don't understand. I think, we hold a district to a high regard, and we hold our children to try to be kind of role modeled after those administrators, try to get them to do well. How can you teach a student to do well when you're doing wrong yourself? Now, this isn't the first incident that I've had with this administrator. My son, which is on an IEP, is not to be, not really left alone, but he's not to be by himself. He can't be by himself because he kind of gets confused sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't know how to handle things. So I didn't know my son had left the school. The district never called, never said anything. They just waited till he conveniently walked back in. My son's a freshman. Now, a junior, senior, that part I get. But freshman, you're new to high school, you're trying to get things done. He decided he just want to walk and leave the school. And I get it. They say, well, we're not responsible to keep your kid in class. Excuse me? Then why are we in school then? Why do we have all these cameras? Why do we have this? If I send my child to school, he walks in, he's in there first hour, but you don't see him anytime after that, that's a problem to me. And I know a lot of you might say, well, what is your son doing? What is he? My son is hyperactive. He's very hyperactive. He can't sit still for less than probably 5 seconds unless he's really drawn to something. I'm not blaming them, but I think his attitude was so cavalier and so nonchalantly, like he wasn't responsible for my child, but my child is on your time, on school time. So I expect my child to be in the classroom. I thought there was one point in time that when you took roll and they sent it to the office, because back then we didn't have computers. Now they do everything by the click of a button. So you know immediately if your child is in or out of school. So he proceeded to give my child another detention because he said, well, that's skipping classes. Okay, I get it. But my son has a whole team in place for him. And I felt that that's not being utilized. So I don't know. Maybe you guys think I'm being petty. Maybe you guys think I'm just trying to find ways there's something wrong with this assistant principal, but I'm not. I just think there's a lot of things that's changed that we were used to before. And keep in mind, I have my oldest sons that graduated from this school. So it's definitely a change. So maybe it's just me, but I feel that this guy has no compassion. I feel that he is, very, 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 I don't want to say shows favoritism towards the opposite race, but I can't help but think that. My daughter was sitting in a hallway, which is kind of somewhat sort of maybe linked to the cafeteria, but he had the audacity to say that her and her friends were being loud, which that wasn't the case. Long story short, they got in trouble. For what the trouble was? Because they said they were somewhere where they weren't supposed to be. But get this, the very next day, why is it a group of white students are in that same hallway and nothing happens to them? And I conveniently called them out on it. I have proof. My daughter's giving me proof. I've even talked to the head principal. And they say, oh, well, something's going to get done. But nothing doesn't get done. I don't like when I see building administrators pick and choose what kids can do what, because that means you're showing favoritism towards a certain race. Now, I'm not the guy that likes to come on here and just talk about race and, say, oh, well, they're not getting a fair turn, nothing like that. No, I want you to, if my child did wrong, then they should be held accountable for doing wrong. They should, but they don't. So, and that takes me to another incident. My son, and this is what I can't understand for the life of me, because back in my time when I was going to high school, this is how I say this changed. My son was being bullied by a student. A student came up to him, walked up to him, threw his head against the wall, not once, but twice. Threw his head against the wall twice. My son then proceeded to defend himself by pushing the student, which the student just happenly fell down the stairs. Don't worry, he's okay. They're both all right. But my son got 5 days suspension, as well as the other student. I don't understand how that's justified, or what I don't understand it. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because my son wasn't the aggressor. When the principal called and said, well, yeah, we see your son wasn't the aggressor. Well, why in the hell would he get suspended for 5 days if he's just defending himself? Let me tell you what the building administrator said. The head principal, what she said, when I had a meeting with her. And I said, well, yes, it is in the handbook that if both students are fighting, then both students get suspended. But if he's defending himself, I think that would be a little bit different. She didn't care to hear that. And I said, so what should happen? My son should just lay there and just took an ass whooping from the student. She said, well, yeah, then he wouldn't have been suspended. I said, excuse me? This was an administrator, the head principal, that told me this, the head principal. Because back in my day, if you started a fight and you were the aggressor, in high school, they would take you to jail. Whether it be, they'd probably take you to juvenile, depending on your age. And then you were charged with assault. Now, granted, that wouldn't go on your record unless you would do community service, which, in fact, that's good. Why? Because that's teaching you in the real world, you can't put your hands on somebody and not have a consequence. So it didn't stop there. It didn't. Hang on, let me hit this vape, y'all. I gotta hit this vape. So upon that, doing that, there was something that wasn't offered to me that should have been offered to me, which was they call as a peace offering. A peace offering, and let me get this right, I may not be 100% correct on that, and I don't know if your district has it, but a peace offering is that I wanted to press charges against a student that harmed my son. And the principal told me, he's like, well, I don't think, he said, you don't want this to go on their record. I said, well, why would it go on my son's record? He wasn't the aggressor. You told me y'all have video of it. She said, well, it's up to the school if we want to press charge. I said, why is it up to the school? It's up to the parent. So she said, well, I'll look into that and we'll get that taken care of, but I don't want this to go on there. I said, it's not going to go on my son's record because he wasn't the aggressor. Y'all have video. When my son has his day in court, I guess you see the truth will set him free. Okay, y'all, do y'all not know maybe a week later, this principal called me and told me we're going to decide not to pursue it. And I said, why not? Well, because it's already been handled. Handled through who? He's still being bullied. Schools talk about, oh, well, we have a zero tolerance for bullying. But when you try to want to correct the situation, they don't want to correct the situation. And I told the building administrator, I don't know if you're friends with this child or you know this child's parents. I give 0 dams. Because if he was out in the street and this happened, then it could have went the other way. And then look who'd be sitting in jail. So the administrators and the teachers want to hold our kids to a high regard, but we can't hold them to a high regard. Or a higher standard, so to speak. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm all over the place today. I'm just a little bit upset, but I'm going to be all right. Because I don't understand how, if my son is being bullied or victimized, how are the other students allowed to get away from it? Then they always say, well, we didn't see anything on camera. Okay, of course you're not going to see anything on camera because they can do it when your back is turned. But my son is always a go-to person to get bullied because of the way he is. He's hyperactive. He has I don't want to say ADHD because I choose not to put my child on medicine because my child functions very well. I'm sorry. Maybe you guys disagree with that, but my son is okay. I love my son. I love all my kids. I do. But I feel that he's not being looked after like he was in middle school or in elementary. And we've been in this district since elementary. He had a whole team in place to kind of counteract these things that happen. My son goes to therapy in school. His therapist tells me about incidents in school and that my son that we both share. And I say, yeah, it needs to be taken care of. So I want to know from the parents, does any of this happen to your children? I see that there's a lot of posts online about parents filing for bullying complaints against the against the student and the school. But the school has a funny way of trying to cover their own ass because they like to try to play that kind of slick move where they say, well, it's not really this or it's not really that, but we'll look into it. But then they don't look into it. And then what also pisses me off is that they take the word of other fellow students over the damn adult, which I don't understand that. When my son got to this little scuffle, everybody came to the kids, the aggressor. They were on his side and not my son's side. They said, oh yeah, he did this, he did that, he did this. But when it came to the kid that actually threw my son's head against the wall, and you know what the funny thing is? My daughter was standing right there when it happened. Do you think they talked to her? No, they did not. They did not. Her and her best friend were standing right there. They talked to everybody damn else but her. And I don't understand why that is. If you have an eyewitness account, and this daughter here is the daughter, I'm not going to say the good daughter because all my kids are good, but this daughter here doesn't do drama. She gets good grades in school. She's hold on, getting a message. She does very good in school. And yes, of course, she's protective and she loves her brothers. But they wouldn't even talk to her. They talked to other fellow students. Now, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you go to all the other students. And then the teacher was even right there, which I'm not even sure what the hell. The teacher's like, well, I didn't see it. Excuse me? You were standing right there. You had a damn front row seat and you didn't see it? But then when they look on the camera, oh, we see where your son was the aggressor. Gee, you think? But he's already serving 5 days of out of in-school suspension. How in the hell is that just? How is it? How is it? I don't like to be mad at administrators and teachers because they have a hard enough job. But I think when you don't do your damn job, it makes me kind of hard to trust you. And it makes me kind of sad because we put our faith in these teachers and the administrators to do the right thing, and they can't even do the right damn thing. Instead, they want to try to cover their ass, and they want to get the alliance or other fellow faculty members or staff members to stand behind them to say, well, yeah, it's what it is, And then they want to refer you to the damn handbook. I get the handbook. I read the damn handbook. I did. And I get that both students need to be punished, but my son shouldn't be punished like that, especially since he wasn't the first one that put his hands or didn't get his head slammed against the wall, or he didn't slam this other kid's head against the wall. Oh my goodness. Give me a minute, y'all. So I see it online a lot. I see a lot of parents complain. I see a lot of parents upset because of, when they're trying to get everything done and they're trying to tell the school what's going on. But I get it. The school has so much they got to do. You got to look at the students. But your number one job in the school is to protect students. It is. I don't care how you see it or how you say it. I don't send them there to be looked after. I send them there to get an education, also to be looked after. I send them there so they can become better adults as they get older. I send them there, so they can learn to be a better person before crossing that threshold of graduation and going out into the real world. Take the skills that you're trying to teach them and so they can use it out in the real world. Yes, I'm a parent. I'm informed about my kids 24/7, 7 days a week. I know any and everything that they do. A lot of y'all might sit back and say, well, he can't know everything. I beg to differ. I do. And if I had my kids in here, they would probably tell you that I do. Because I'm a parent. I want to be clued in. I don't want nothing to happen. We see a lot of mass shootings at schools, students getting bullied, beat up, or getting killed or getting stabbed. And I don't know what that's due to. I'm not going to say it's due to bullying. Some of it may be. But I don't know what other way we can do to make sure that this situation is better. But I think it starts from the top. I think it starts with building administrators. I think if you're preaching I think you're preaching something that you believe that your district stands behind, I think you should stand behind it 100%. I really do. Sorry, I had to get that to you. I don't think you should stand behind it when it suits you or when it's convenient for you, or if in fact you know this other person. And that's the problem that I have, that I think that there's some kind of alliance or something's going on, because I think that I get that some of these parents are powerhouses, but at the end of the day, you are a damn district. You don't answer to nobody but the damn state and the people you work for or work to or whatever. And I know that a lot of these parents have a lot of influence and a lot of pull because they have money. When they always say, well, we can make your life a living hell, then you know what? I would like to see that. I'd welcome that. I really would. I really would welcome that. There was one teacher that came to my child's aid, one teacher, and I called the principal out on it. And he swore up and down that she said something totally different. But when we talked back to the teacher, then it turns out that he was in the wrong. And do you think he apologized? He did not. Why would he? Because he thinks he can do no damn wrong. This is a guy who thinks that what he says is final. This is a guy that has the backing of the administration behind him, and it says that what he's doing is the right thing. I'm sorry, because I've seen this shit happen before, and this shit didn't happen like this last year. I have a daughter that goes to I don't really want to say an alternative school, but she goes there for a behavior. I don't not near get as many calls on her as I do as my oldest daughter. And most of the calls that he calling about, oh, well, she bumped into a student, that's a detention. She said something inappropriate, that's a detention. What the hell is going on here? So we can't talk. I mean, last time I checked, this is a country where we do have freedom of speech. And granted, she wasn't being disrespectful. But the thing I love about students today that we did do back in the day, if something was wrong, we would call them out, but we would do it respectfully. We wouldn't do it with disrespect. We wouldn't cause a scene or do anything about that. But now if you do that, teachers think it's an act of disrespect. I don't see how that is, because I let my children speak freely within reason if something's not right. I'm a parent. I'm always not 100% on any and everything that I do. And I get it. I understand that. I do. But I think right is right, wrong is wrong. So I know that they just replaced the head principal, so she won't be there next year. They brought in a new principal for next year, which I'm not sure if she's going to a different position. I wish her the best, but I've even contacted the district about this, and it feels like we're just at this point we're just spinning wheels. And I don't know if some of you parents are feeling the same exact way, but I've seen a lot of parents on social media that are venting their frustration, not to a level of point of anything bad, but they're just trying to figure out what we can do. I want to know if there's something that we can do. I want to know if anybody's listening to this podcast that can tell me either if I've done something wrong or if there's something that I can do better, because I welcome all criticism. I don't take any criticism negatively. I take everything as a positive, When these things happen, I feel that the district or the schools, they always talk this shit that, when there's two students involved, they don't never want to give out the other student's name. I get it. I got that. What happened when there was a time where you would bring both parents in, you would sit down, not really mediate, but kind of get on the same page as the school and both parents to be an understandable thing. They don't even do that shit anymore. They said, oh, well, we don't do that no more. And I'm trying to figure out why, because back in my day, when there was an issue, we'd bring in both parents, we sit down, the principal would talk to us and say, hey, well, this is what's going on here. We want to try to figure out what we can do to make it better. They don't do that shit here. Everything they've done is by email. And I'll be damned if they're not worse than teenagers when texting messages. Everything is done by email. We don't talk to each other no more. We don't get involved. We have a building administrator, according to some that have told me, that just sits in her office all day. And I got to tell you, this damn office is decked out like an apartment. The damn thing is like, whoa. I thought it was an apartment, but it was her office. But back in my day, we used to have, from the principal on down to the assistant principals, everybody would be in the hallway during passing periods. The head principal would know majority of the students that attend this school. If you have an administrator that does not know that because for whatever reason, my reason is I'm like, well, how are you in this position if you don't engage with your students, if you don't know what's going on? Word of mouth is good, but it's also better to get out there and to show your face and to let people know, hey, I'm here for you. You can talk to me. We say we have these open door policies. We say we want to do better, but we can't do better because when we do better, then we have to tear somebody else down that's trying to do better and make them feel bad. This damn principal, when something goes wrong with my children, he reminds them of the bad shit that they do instead of the good shit. And that's the same thing I told him when he calls me. He said, you always call me, you got nothing good to say. It's always bad shit. But then when I try to call him, oh, I didn't say it to your daughter. But then I bring my daughter and my daughter tells me word for word what he said. Oh, no, I didn't say that. Really? I've caught this dumbass principal on so many lies. It's ridiculous. It's amazing that he's still there. It really is. I don't hate him. I just don't like him. I don't like him. I don't wish him harm. I don't wish him bad. I don't wish anything. I'm still trying to figure out how he got to be an assistant principal. So I don't know, maybe, and then I don't know if they're afraid of being caught. I don't, I said I don't know. I don't know. So again, I apologize if I'm everywhere with this podcast today, but I'm just really frustrated because I know I'm not alone. I know there's other parents that's going through this. I just don't understand how, these things are happening. And since my children have been in school, they have almost damn near, let's see if this can give me a number. Almost 30 something detentions, which is ridiculously weird. And they're not even for, let's see, they have misconduct, threat to student, and I didn't know that was a thing. Refusal, left class without permission, get that. Unexcused tardies, disruption, tardy with no plan book. I'm not even sure what the hell that is. Disrespect to staff. So the staff can be disrespectful to the students, but we can't disrespect the staff. Or let me rephrase that. The staff can get angry with the students and say stuff crazy to the students, but when the student says something that's not even inappropriately or has a comeback for, then we can't do that. You know, I teach my kids not to let anybody run over y'all. If you think something is wrong, call it out, but do it with respect. You don't have to make a scene about it. You know, my son has tried time and time again to go to the powers that be, which is the assistant principal, and they just feel they get overlooked. And I've even told them that. Their trust is not even in y'all anymore. You know? So they continue to go to school every day, and they continue to stay. They kind of do. I mean, they're doing everything that they're. Oh, that's supposed to be on silent. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. It's my watch. Got some peeps calling me. But they're trying to do everything right, and they have been doing everything right, but they feel they get crucified for every single stupid, dumbass thing. And I don't understand why that is. You know, the lunchroom incident with the hallway, I tried to call them out on that. You know, just recently, just yesterday, you know, this guy called, this principal called, was telling me about my son, and my son said he had asked the student if she was pregnant. He said that was inappropriate. And he's like, well, we can't talk like that. It's high school, damn it. Do you not know the kids that you like basically are in the same building with? I know you hear worse shit than that in a locker room. I don't get it. I mean, my son he's very persistent with things. He's very different. And he does know right from wrong. Now, I did explain to my son, you know, it's probably not a good idea to ask a student that, you know, because, you know, whatever. But he said they were making a joke. And that's another thing. You know, when you hear kids talking and you hear teachers eavesdropping on it, they take that shit and run it like it's just the worst. And it's just kids being kids or teenagers being teenagers. You know, but outside of school, we expect administrators and teachers to live that same life as they was in school. Lord forbid they should do anything wrong or do anything bad, because when you call them out on it, then they think, well, you know, it's my off time. But wait, you did the same thing to my child, but they got in trouble for it. You didn't. How does that work? How does that even play out? I don't know. Maybe I'm just ranting. Maybe I'm just pissed off because I think that this administrator he really shouldn't be in this position. I really think that this district is a good district. I think that when we lost my wife, they came through in a big way. They did, but he wasn't there. He wasn't there then. I think that parents like me are kind of fed up with seeing no results, fed up with the bullying, fed up with the cyberbullying, fed up with administrators telling us that there's nothing we can do. But when you want to try to do something, they want to tie your hands behind your back and say, we can't do that. Then when you want to try to reach out to the parent doesn't want to reach out to you. I've only been successful in that probably about 2 times. The third time, the parent didn't want to speak to me. And it's not about a power trip. It's about me and the parent getting on the same page so our kids can do better and be better. It's not about me threatening the parent saying, well, what I'm going to do if your son does this again. No, it's not about that. I want to be on the same page as a parent. You know, you're a parent like I am. My child has done something wrong. Your child has done something wrong. Let's kind of work together to see that this can't happen again. Because I got to say, this world is getting crazy, you know, with social media, the way it is, and what you can do, what you can say, it's just getting ridiculous. It's sad because it was never this way back in our day. And I miss those days. And I know we'll never get those days back. But I think for some of those parents who's out there trying really hard to be the best parent they can be, and that's doing everything by the freaking damn book, it's hard because when you have people that you're trying to communicate with, they don't want to help you. They don't want to meet you halfway. They just want to continue down this path of it's my way or the highway. And it shouldn't even be that way. It shouldn't. And then you have parents that are basically, I'm going to call them the power force because of their influence and who they are. I can give a damn. I do. I do. That ain't got shit to do with me. Only thing I'm concerned about is my child. I'm concerned about my child, and I want you to be concerned about your child. And I want us to come together as parents to figure out how we can make this work. You know, schools have Well, I don't know. Hold on. Mm. Love this vape. Schools have a no contact order, which I'm not even sure how that shit even works. We didn't have none of that back in the day. That's the no contact orders where students get into a little issue or whatever, what have you. Then they kind of put them on this no contact. So it's basically like a restraining order for high schoolers, but not legally enforced, so to speak, by the courts. It's enforced by the school. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the reason why sometimes it doesn't work is because these people that you're in a no contact order with also have friends. And they have friends that try to get at you because that person can't get at you. So it's like, what? It's just, what's the point of this shit? Is it good? Is it bad? To me, it has no effect. I think back in my day, we had conflict resolution managers. We had fellow students with peers that would come in. These were students that were kind of at the top of their game. They exhibited leadership. You know, they want to make the world a better place sort of people. And that was fine. I was good with that. And they would bring in, if there was a fight, they'd bring in conflict resolution managers. They try to get to the bottom of it. And then in turn, they would turn it over to the administrator. And then the administrator would sit down with the student as well as the conflict manager. And then they would try to go figure out something better. And I miss those days. I don't know if you guys had those, but we had those here back in my day. And they worked effectively. They did. I thought it was good. I mean, of course, now with social media, you probably can't really have that because, you know, you say something to one student, then it's leaked online or, oh, this shit happened or whatever. You know, I really want our administrators to be held accountable for any and everything they do. I'm not saying that they are bad at what they do. I'm saying that if you're wrong, admit that you're wrong and let's continue to move forward. Don't sit back and always think you're right about every single damn thing, because you're not. Excuse me. Everybody makes a damn mistake. I make a mistake. Do I admit when I'm wrong? You damn sure right I do. And I tell my kids that. Because to me, if I did wrong, if I know it's wrong, I'm man enough to admit it and move forward from it. It's not going to hold me back. It's not going to keep me back. But you lying to try to keep your sanity or your image or your reputation or to better advance you into a further situation, it'll get a lot worse before it gets better. Real talk, it will. You know, this administrator is just, I don't know. And I know we all have people like that. Now, granted, some of the teachers they're good teachers. They're good. I'm not going to hold one teacher to a high regard. I'm sorry. I'm not going to, just because one teacher does wrong, I'm not going to hold everybody else accountable for that. That's what I meant to say. And that goes the same thing with the assistant principal, because it's the one person making the decision. Now, with that being said, the teachers that brought the accusation, I will talk to them about it, and I'll kind of ask them about it, or kind of call them out on it. And surprisingly, there's only one teacher that has stood up to say, well, I don't think that's the right punishment. But at the end of the day, who had the final call? It would have been him, the assistant principal. So I know this podcast wasn't too much of a, educational thing, but I'd really like to hear from some of you parents if you're going through this. Maybe come on the show and be a guest on my show. Maybe we can talk about things together. I live here in the Missouri area, on the state of Missouri. As I said, I do see a lot of posts online that a lot of parents are going through some of the similar situations and they don't know how to handle it or what they should do. Some are even threatening lawsuits. I even thought about that too as well. But I'm trying to figure it out, because at the end of the day, we as parents, if we do something wrong, the school won't hesitate to pick up the phone and call us out on our shit. But when you call them out on their shit, there's no one to call. There's no one that's going to take your side because they're backed by the administration or the district. And the only thing that, depending on the punishment and how severe the punishment is, then they may take responsibility. Depending. I don't know. Shit. Who knows? But my daughter's also brought to my attention that there's a teacher that favors a student. And I told her that she should go tell an administrator. Has that gotten looked at yet? I have no idea. I don't. So, getting ready in closing, I do want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. This was kind of a vent podcast. You know, sometimes you got to vent it. Sometimes you got to figure out what you can do. You know, get the support of other parents. And I would appreciate the support if you guys listen to this. Like I said, I know it wasn't completely organized. I had a whole thing I wanted to talk about, but I guess it kind of went off the rails. But in any event, I want to appreciate the listeners for listening to me. I also want to say to my listeners that listen overseas, I appreciate your letters. I do, however, want to say that if you speak a different dialect of language than what I speak, I have to go through your letters and kind of translate everything. So give me some time to work on it. And we have more to show to come. And we're going to keep it moving. So, in closing, I don't take anything negative from this. I want to keep this as positive as I can be, because I tell my children that just because somebody does you wrong doesn't mean it has to ruin your day. And don't let it ruin your joy. Just keep moving forward. Document things if you think things are not going to go the way you think it is. If you can get a snapshot or a glimpse or a video of it, I would do it. I mean, schools often say that students ain't supposed to be videotaping, but we signed that damn waiver saying that they can be videotaped to school. So again, I'm not sure what this is, but they do it anyways. But whatever. It is what it is. My friends, I want to thank you for listening to my podcast today. I want to say thank you for your support. Keep it coming in. And hopefully, if you guys are having the situation that I'm having, that we can try to find a better way to try to deal with it. I know it seems a lot of you guys are frustrated by this and you feel it seems like there's nothing you can do, but don't let your child see you go down a path that you wouldn't want them to go down. So let's continue to teach our children to be respectful. Let's continue to teach our children how to handle a situation, even though that situation may not always come out on the right situation. Because those who want to continue to try to always speak the truth, even though their truth is false, in time, it will come back on them. So, as we get ready to close this show out, my name is Derek. I am Endeavor Empire. I would love to hear from you. D6Empire357@gmail.com. My social media links are listed on every podcast episode. So until next time, my friends, God bless you. Y'all take care of each other. Take care of yourself and each other. See, I told you this show is a little bit off today. Until next time, take care, you guys.